What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today, we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to show you all the cryptos I'm going long, or I would be going long at this stage. You'll see exactly what I mean in just a second. Before I get started, though, guys, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of these cryptos. It's my personal strategy. What you're seeing here, I'm not advocating for anyone to copy me. I'm not advocating for copy trading. I'm not saying do this. What you do is your choice. It's at your own risk. I'm just showcasing the trades that I am personally taking or would be taking. And again, I'll explain what I mean by that in just a second. So first off, guys, let's jump straight into it. First crypto I'm trading here, and in this case, I do have an open trade as we speak, is Ethereum. Of course, I'm sure that the sentiment around Ethereum has just been absolutely horrendous, and this kind of makes me pretty bullish, especially when you consider, as I'm sure some of you may have heard, that there seems to be quite a few shorts, or I guess apparently a record a level of shorts on Ethereum across different exchanges, which of course sets the stage for short squeeze. But more importantly, guys, I do think that there's going to be bullish catalysts coming up with real world assets. I do think that Ethereum is going to be front and center in this. I do think that crypto projects, the crypto industry, large investors, everyone is positioning for real world assets to kind of take off here in the coming weeks. And I honestly think this is something that's going to happen by the end of the month. And more importantly, guys, the price that Ethereum is currently at, somewhere around 2,600, is roughly where the monthly Bollinger Band is, the monthly Bollinger Band moving average, which is like the final line in the sand for Ethereum and for altcoins more generally. Ethereum has been holding this level basically since the crypto market started rallying in 2023. And so I do expect this level to hold, and I do expect there to be a big bounce. But of course, in case there isn't, then I have set a stop loss here down around 1,800. And the reason being that I do think it's possible that we could get, again, I imagine lots of people are setting a stop loss somewhere around $2,000. And chances are that we're going to see some liquidations through that level. So this is kind of like an extra buffer zone. The idea, like, I guess the way that I trade is that I don't actually expect these stop loss levels to be hit. As you can see, I'm only using 2x leverage here. I'm not going crazy with leverage. I'm not looking to make like a 10x or whatever here in a short period of time. I'm going to take things one step at a time here. And I guess I will break down how I got this target for ETH here and when roughly it's going to be hit. So the starting point of this most recent structure, we're on the daily here, guys. We're quite a bit zoomed out. So you can see here, basically price action going all the way back to early 2024. So this is price action over the last year, but on the daily chart. With that being said, the starting point here of this most recent structure is clearly somewhere around $2,200. The resistance, very obviously, around $4,000. And the difference between those two levels, guys, is around $1,800. So of course, to get the target, all we need to do is take the difference between those two levels and add it to the resistance, and that gives us a target of 5,800. And I actually do think that's something that's going to be hit here in the next few weeks. I don't think that's the cycle top for ETH. I do think ETH will probably get closer to around $9,000, but I'm going to take things one step at a time. I do think that getting to around 6,000 will probably be like a how would I say, like a breather. I don't know if that's the right word to use. That will probably use some resistance and chop around that level, maybe even possibly a pullback. So I'm just going to take things one step at a time. And given how beaten down ETH is, how close it is kind of to the starting point of this structure, of course it could fall lower, and again, the position would still be open in that case. I would just be waiting for it to potentially, let's say, bounce from 2,200, maybe even fall down to 2,000 before bouncing up by the end of the month. That's always possible. But yeah, guys, the way that I think about leverage is like I only use as much, or I guess the way that I think about leverage is more in relation to the stop loss. So I ask myself is like, what is the lowest possible price level? Like, very unlikely, but possibly how low ETH could fall as a result of liquidations and stuff like that. And in my mind, that's $1,800. So that's where I set my stop loss, where it's like, if we do see a drop all the way to that level, which I think is extremely unlikely, but if we do, then my profits are well, not profits, but some of my position is still protected here. I would only take a 63% loss, which is not too bad. But with 2x leverage. So the loss wouldn't necessarily be that bad, but more importantly, guys, if we did see a fall below that level, I do think that crypto would be entering kind of like another bear market, which I don't think is going to happen. So it's like again, it's a combination of factors, I guess. But again, the way that I set the stop loss main thing is I think like what is the lowest possible level it could fall to? That's where I set my stop loss, and then based on that is like okay, what is the amount of leverage that I could use where if that level is hit, that I would still have some of my portfolio left, if that makes any sense. So in this case, if that level is hit, which again I think is extremely unlikely, but if it is, then I would still have, whatever that is, 35% of my portfolio left, which if we did enter like another bear market, it's something that I could theoretically trade myself out of. And yeah, guys, so that's the way that I think about it. Of course, the return on investment here with 2x leverage would be 240% from the current level. And yeah, guys, I'm not going to be checking this every single day or every single week. I'm just going to let this position ride. And if there is any updates, then I'll be sure to let you guys know. Of course, that brings me now to the next trade that I have, or rather that I would have. So this is what I was referring to at the beginning of the video. For the sake of transparency, guys, I am using an institutional account here. This is not my personal account. This is an institutional account with the Coin Bureau on Bybit. And what's annoying is that I was basically setting up all of these charts, all of these positions, and then I actually started going long, and it basically told me that with this account, I'm not allowed to go long these certain altcoins, which is annoying. I don't know if it's because of the size of the trade or what have you, but regardless, guys, just for your sake, I still did draw out these charts because these are cryptos. Again, on a personal level, I'm not a trader. These are cryptos that I personally hold. I don't hold ETH. I'll trade ETH with this institutional account, but I do hold Aptos. I do hold Helium, Osmosis, and these other cryptos that I'm going to be talking about in a second. I guess I gave you a little bit of a spoiler there. But these are cryptos that I hold on a personal level. So it's ones that I personally believe in, not ones that I would trade. But again, this is what I kind of see in the charts. And if you're someone who's a trader, as you guys might know, and I'm sure I'm going to get a couple questions in the comments. Well, I've been saying not to go long until we're above this resistance level. This is one of those things where it's like, you have hard and fast rules, or like, how do I explain this? There are exceptions to every rule, right? And in this case, the crypto market is so beaten down. Altcoins are so beaten down. You look at the chart, like for whether it's for Aptos or for Ethereum or for these other altcoins that we're going to look at, they've basically grinded all the way back down to the starting point. Technically, in this case, Aptos is below the starting point that I had been mentioning in other videos. But the price is already so beaten down. Could it go lower? Always the answer is yes, which is why I have a stop loss down here, which is I think another 20 or 30% lower. And I would take a 68% hit to my portfolio. Again, I don't actually have an active trade here because it won't let me trade it. But besides that fact, it is always possible that it could go lower, but on the balance of probabilities, like if we're talking about like a risk reward, is most of this down move over? I think the answer is yes. And obviously in my mind, that means that the next step is we're going to see it at I guess in a worst case scenario, a slow grind higher to this resistance level. But I actually do think that the rally could be a lot bigger and a lot faster. And I'll get into why that is at the end of the video. So do stick around if you're wondering why. It's like, how is it possible that we're going to see these price targets being hit here in the next couple of weeks? I'll just show you guys like a little bit of a flashback from the previous cycle so that you understand why that is. But with that being said, guys, of course, same thing as with Ethereum, the target math here, or rather, before I start the target math, I should probably explain why. Of course, PayPal has a huge presence in the Trump administration, and Aptos is actually a project that PayPal invested in. If you don't think that PayPal and all these insiders are going to make their money back on Aptos, I think you're mistaken. Of course, we are seeing like Aave launching on Aptos soon, a whole bunch of stuff that will bring more liquidity to its chain. The stablecoin supply on Aptos is growing. The number of active wallets on Aptos is growing. So I do think that the fundamentals there are looking very bullish. And of all the kind of Solana killers, I think this is the one that has the most upside. And of course, we can juice that up with a little bit of leverage. In this case, I would personally not use more than 2x leverage for basically a 5x return here over the next few weeks, which I also do think this is going to be hit in the next, let's say, month or two max. I know I've been saying that for a while now, guys, but we're like, I mean, in the Coin Bureau Club, I was giving a more of a detailed explanation that it looks like altcoins are kind of following Bitcoin like 1 year behind. And assuming that they are, then we should see altcoins starting to recover here. But anyways, guys, now with that in mind, like the specific catalysts being again PayPal Mafia, Trump administration, Aave deploying on Aptos, and a whole bunch of fundamental indicators like on-chain activity and wallets and stuff like that rising. paints a pretty bullish picture for APT. In this case, of course, I have a starting point of around $6, resistance of around $14. The difference between those two levels is $8, and that gives us a target of $22, which again, with 2x leverage, you'd be looking at an ROI of 525% from the current level. Of course, with the stop loss, where I would personally set it is somewhere around $4, because I honestly don't think that APT would fall lower than that. But on the off chance that it did, you would still walk away with some percentage of your portfolio intact that you could use to kind of trade your way back up. And again, if we do see another big drop like this, whether it's for Ethereum or APT or the other altcoins today, then I do think that the crypto market is going to enter another multi-month kind of like a bear period. This is not my base case, and I should clarify as well, but this $22 target for APT is not the cycle top target. Same thing with ETH. It's not the cycle top target. These are targets that I expect to be hit here in the next, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks. And I do think, especially with the sentiment and everything and all the negativity, my confidence in that call has actually grown rather than shrank, which of course, some people are gonna be like, oh, like you're constantly bullish. It's like, yes. And you'll see why. And maybe I'll give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek. This is why, okay? This is where most cryptos are right now in this late 2020 stage, potentially. And this is you can see that within the span of 2 or 3 months, how much prices can rally, okay? But I'll come back to that later. But that's the main reason why. It's like this type of scenario, this type of sideways chop and grind is precisely the environment that we get just before a massive monster move like that, where most altcoins basically hit their cycle highs within the span of a few weeks. Again, I'm not saying that these levels I've said here are cycle highs. These are just short-term targets, short-term meaning just over the next few weeks. Moving on to the next pick here, my next pick to go along, if I could go along with this institutional account, would be Helium. Helium is the top deep in project on Solana, and I kind of see it as like a very good, like higher risk, higher reward bet on Sol. Because of course, like Solana itself, maybe will go up, I don't know, let's say another 3 or 4x from here, or maybe 5x, I guess, to around $1,000. But if you want like something with a higher return, then you would need to look for like top blue chips on Solana. And in my opinion, the top blue chip on Solana is Helium. And what's really interesting, of course, is that Helium Mobile is doing another big push here to get more users. And what's interesting is that they seem to have these kind of cloud points. Basically, this point system that's going on the mobile phone, and for me, that foreshadows some kind of airdrop. And this is, not to go on too much of a tangent, but this is one area that I think a lot of people are underestimating. That when these regulations change and things like airdrops are allowed, just don't underestimate how much that could just completely transform incentives in the crypto market. You're going to see, for example, Helium Mobile will start, for example, airdropping free crypto to users. That basically covers the cost of the phone, of the phone plan rather. And then what does that do to like traditional phone companies, right? Or for example, with Sui has like a handheld device. What happens if they start doing airdrops that cover the cost of the device? Like, who would buy a Nintendo Switch, right? Why would you buy a Nintendo Switch if you can buy this other device and you'll get your money back and more for that, right? And maybe some games on there are actually good and they're worth actually buying the device for. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent. Point being, same thing, and I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler. All the cryptos that we're going to be looking at today, it's all with 2x leverage. That's the most that I would personally use. Again, main reason being that I kind of look at like where is the amount of leverage is determined by roughly where I think the stop loss should be, or could be rather. It's like what's the lowest possible level that this crypto could go to in the short term here, or rather in the next couple of weeks. And that's where I set my stop loss. And then based on that is how much I do leverage. And I want to make sure that I'm walking away at least with something, 20%, 30% of my portfolio in a worst case scenario, right? In an absolute worst case scenario, that's how I'm doing all these measurements. So in the case of Helium, the worst case here would be around $2, I think, if it fell. I don't think it's going to go lower than that. I do think that this $3.5 level is going to hold. And I do think that it's going to rally up to this resistance. And of course, the difference between those two levels being $5, that'll give HNT a target of $13.5, which would be almost a 6x return with 2x leverage. Again, this is not the cycle top. I actually think that HNT is going to go a lot higher than that. I think it could go close to $100. But we're going to take things one step at a time. And hopefully, once there's more interest in Helium, then I'll be analyzing the crypto project, separately, let's say, without all this leverage and everything. But basically, long story short, third crypto that I would go long if I could with this account would be Helium. But I do hold Helium personally. I'm not trading it personally, but I do hold it. I actually bought it, I believe, down here around its current levels, where it fell down here with that huge wipeout last week. So I am holding it, and I'm waiting patiently for that target to be hit. I'm not going to be selling that target personally. I'm going to be waiting because I do think that HNT is going to continue heading higher. And of course, by now, in case you didn't notice, we were using buybacks Bybit there. If you do want to open some of these trades on Bybit, then do be sure to take advantage of our discount code, or rather our sign up link in the description for to get up to $60,000 in rewards. Of course, you do need to do quite a few things to maximize those rewards, but those rewards will help you out regardless. Be sure to check it out. It doesn't cost you a thing to sign up. The exchange is a new user. You get a little bit of a kickback, and I believe that we get a little bit of a cut of those trading fees and whatever it is that you're doing on the platform. So it's kind of like a win-win-win for everyone, assuming you're a fan of Bybit, of course. Anyways, guys, moving on to the next kind of pick here for 2025, let's say, is Osmo. And this is one's probably going to come as a little bit of a head scratcher, a little bit of a surprise. Similarly to, I guess, Ethereum, the Cosmos ecosystem has been really beaten down ever since Terra collapsed. I think a lot of people forget just, when Terra collapsed, of course, it hit DeFi very hard, but because Terra was a Cosmos-based crypto, it hit the Cosmos ecosystem 10 times harder. And then when you ask yourself, okay, like, what is the top crypto project in the Cosmos ecosystem? Or rather, first question, is the Cosmos ecosystem going to recover? I would say so, yes. It's very there's lots of high-quality projects in there. There's lots of development. There's lots of liquidity. What's really interesting is that one of the top chains for USDC is actually Noble, which is a Cosmos-based blockchain. You wouldn't think of that, right? Like, of course, you would think Solana, Base, right? Obvious, Ethereum. But Noble, I think, is like the fourth or the fifth, which is pretty crazy. And of course, that's all money that's going into Cosmos ecosystem. And most of that liquidity flows through Osmosis, which is like the primary DEX in the Cosmos ecosystem. So if you're bullish at all on Cosmos, or you think Cosmos is going to recover, in my opinion, Osmo is the best way to play that. And again, I do hold Osmo as part of my personal portfolio. It's not something I'm personally trading. It's something I wish I could trade with this institutional account, but unfortunately I cannot. But if I was able to trade it, then the way I would do it, of course, is just like with all the other cryptos here, basically to set my stop loss based on how low it could possibly go, which I think, 20 cents, I don't think it's going to fall to 20 cents, but let's say, it's possible that it could. So that's where I set my stop loss in like a worst case scenario. And then based on that is how much I do the leverage. And of course, and again, we're dealing with 2x, so that if the stop loss is hit, then I still walk away, in this case, with 36% of my portfolio, which would suck, but it wouldn't be the end of the world, right? It's not like you're losing everything. And as to why, or rather what's the catalyst that's going to take Osmosis higher, they're in the process of launching something called Polaris, which I strongly actually recommend watching Sunny Agarwal's presentation at the Solana Breakpoint conference, because what they're doing with Polaris is honestly insane. You can, basically any crypto wallet that you have, you can connect to this DEX and you can trade anything that you want. And so it's kind of a little bit more geared, I would say, to crypto native users. It's like if you have any wallet whatsoever, you can connect to this DEX and you can trade any token on any chain natively. And the way that it works is like if you don't have an app on, or if you don't have a wallet on some other chain, let's say Toncoin, which is the example Sunny used in his presentation, basically the validators will create like a special vault that only you they custody the vault, but only you can access the vault. It's just like it's like a crazy like next level like technology. And it's funny that like we're seeing other crypto projects, I think Jupiter and like these other ones on Solana and other chains are kind of starting to copy this idea, which I do believe kind of has its, well, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that it kind of originates in Thorchain and this type of stuff, and the threshold signatures and all that stuff that came out in 2020. Without like geeking out too much there, guys, this Polaris thing I think is going to be a pretty big deal. It's going to be, I think, a big driver of demand potentially for Osmo, and not only that, but also the introduction of more Bitcoin liquidity into the Osmosis DEX and into the Cosmos ecosystem more broadly. So of course, there with the target math, this starting point of around 30 cents, which again, I honestly don't think Osmo is going to go lower than this. I do think that this is basically the bottom, and the resistance quite clearly somewhere around 65 cents. The difference between those two levels is 35 cents, and when we add the difference to the resistance, we get a target of $1, which of course with 2x leverage, you'd be looking at around a 470% return from the current level. And again, these are not trades that I'm taking on personally. I'm not encouraging anyone to take on these trades. This is just, if I could trade them, this is what I would trade. These are the kind of like, in my view, like objectively the top, well, it's going to be the top 6 cryptos of 2026 in terms of not just trading, but also just like to buy and hold. And again, that's just my personal opinion. Your opinion could differ, and if it does, that's awesome. I'm not advocating for anyone to buy anything here. I'm just showcasing kind of the cryptos that I personally believe, that I truly believe, based on my years of research, actually have lots, on a risk reward basis, let's say, that the risks are low relative to the rewards for these cryptos, in my opinion. Which is actually, I guess, a pretty funny segue here into Ethena. So this is one that's been a little bit controversial. The short explanation I'll give to Ethena is that it's kind of like a way of betting on the amount of leverage on exchanges. I know that's a little bit weird to like wrap your head around, but let me put it to you this way. If the crypto market is going to rally, then a lot of people are going to go long. That's going to cause a lot of long fees on exchanges, and Ethena, basically the crypto, will benefit directly from these fees. And of course, that begs the question: okay, what's the exact catalyst for ENA going to be? And the answer can actually be found here in a recent interview that our CEO Nick did with Guy Young, the founder of Ethena. He basically revealed that in the next few weeks, that Ethena will basically implement the full kind of like fee switch, the full fee sharing, revenue sharing feature from the DeFi protocol. And the DeFi protocol, basically ENA holders will be able to capitalize on these enormous yields that are already coming rather from the DeFi protocol. And he said this 3 weeks ago. I think we're closing in almost on a month since he said this. So I do think that in the next couple of weeks here, we will see ENA, that fee switch, come into play. And I do think that's going to be the thing that takes it up to this target that I've set here, which again, it's not cycle top. It's something that I think is going to be hit in the next couple of weeks. So in this case, we have a starting point of around 50 cents, resistance of around $1. Just be super conservative here. And the difference between those two levels is, of course, 50 cents, and that gives us a target of $1.50, which with 2x leverage, you'd be looking at a 420% ROI. I'm very tempted to make a joke there, but I'm not going to. But in all seriousness, guys, the way that I'm determining how much leverage I would use is to look at like how much lower, like what's the lowest that this ENA could go, like possibly, I would say is around 35 cents. So with that as the stop loss, then I say, okay, then what's the most amount of leverage that I can use where I would still walk away with a decent chunk of my portfolio? In this case, of course, it's 2x again. Because most of these downside moves here, you'll notice, are around 20 to 30%, like 20 to 30%, maybe 35%. So of course, in that case, you're always dealing something with around 2x leverage, which isn't a lot, but come on, guys, like to get these kind of returns in any asset class is just insane. And I do think that the chances of these returns happening in crypto are quite high. Maybe not necessarily for these specific cryptos, even though I believe in them personally, but crypto as an asset class is going to continue going up and to the right for the rest of the year, in my opinion. Of course, it's been looking quite weak recently. We've already discussed that, or I've already discussed that in other videos. But anyways, guys, so with the stop loss here around 35 cents, there would be a potential 56% loss to my portfolio to my position rather, if the stop loss was to be hit. I don't think it's going to be hit. I do think that this is the bottom, and that ENA is going to start rallying here to this $1 resistance, and then up to this $1.5 target. And again, I do think this is going to happen here in the next couple of weeks, precisely because of this fee switch, which could honestly cause ENA to just like melt up through that target and just keep going higher. But again, we'll take things one step at a time. Yeah, guys, this brings me to the last one. I don't know why I was going to do 6. I probably should have stuck to 5 or 3 or whatever, but we're doing 6, guys. The sixth one should not come as a surprise if you've been keeping track of my videos. To kind of do a bet on these made in America ISO 20022 cryptos, I do think that the strongest crypto in that category is Hedera, for the simple reason that Bloomberg ETF analysts have said that HBAR would probably get a spot ETF before Solana or XRP, because it's never been labeled a security, and it seems to be, I don't know, it seems to check whatever boxes they're checking. But point being, guys, yeah, I do think that HBAR is going to do quite well from here. And this is more what it should look like here. That's, again, I wish I could go along with this account, but unfortunately I cannot. And you might notice that the chart looks a little bit different and the ROI is a little bit less. And that's for the simple reason that HBAR has already rallied a lot. Its price has been very resilient. So compared to these other cryptos, which are a lot more beaten down, HBAR just logically has limited upside. Again, I'm not saying this is going to be the cycle top, just to make that clear off the bat again. But in the short term, in the next few weeks of these cryptos, HBAR has returns that are going to be a little bit diminished for the simple fact that when it rallied and it crashed, it didn't crash as much as these other cryptos. Which is a good thing in my opinion. It's a sign of resilience, which is why I set that stop loss only down here around 14 cents. I honestly don't think that HBAR is going to be falling back down to that level. I do think that there's a lot of support around 20 cents. I don't even think it's going to come back to the starting point. But again, the way that I'm calculating how much leverage I use is I say, okay, like in a worst case scenario, how low could it fall? And that would be, I would say, somewhere around 14 cents. So I say, okay, then that's where I'm going to set my stop loss. And then how much leverage would I use, or how much leverage can I use that if that stop loss is hit, that I still walk away with some percentage of my portfolio, 20 to 30%, 40%, right? And in that case, of course, the leverage is 2x again. And to the upside, of course, we'd have a potential ROI of 262%, which is not too shabby at all. And the target math here, guys, is the same like we've been covering every single week, starting point to 15 cents. resistance of 35 cents, difference of 20 cents, and you take the difference, add it to the resistance, and you get a target of 55 cents, of course. So this brings me, guys, to the Coin Bureau Club, which I'll give you guys a little bit of I guess, of a sneak peek again here. We're going to be running another poll in the next few hours. Our next poll will be going live. And of course, this is where we do deep dives into like these altcoins. You can see the videos here showcase some of our personal crypto portfolios. You can see part of guys here. I'm not going to show off too much here. This is where the polls, you can see all these different features in the tabs up here, but you can also vote on the poll here on the dashboard on the main page. And of course, whichever crypto wins this poll is the one that we review. And of course, we have a research feed here where I'm sharing insights, and we have exclusive deals where you can find pretty substantial discounts on crypto analytics platforms and stuff like that. So with all of that being said, it's about time we got to some alpha, and I guess I kind of already showcased it at the beginning. This is something that I posted in the Coin Bureau Club earlier today. Interestingly, the image did not actually get into the research feed, which is a little bit weird. It must be a little bit of a glitch. But in any case, guys, what I truly believe here is that that most altcoins are kind of in this consolidation phase, this chop phase, somewhere around late 2020. And you can see here that this is Theta, which is a crypto I actually traded in the last cycle. I bought Theta around 7 cents, and I sold it almost at the exact top around $14. That was my biggest return. I did not have a large amount of money at the time, so it wasn't like a life-changing amount of gains or anything like that. But I did have a few cryptos that went up quite a bit, and I was always thinking back, like how is it that I found these cryptos? And this is the type of methodology that I'm kind of, teaching to people in the Coin Bureau Club and stuff like that. But anyways, guys, the point with the reason why I'm showing you guys Theta here is just to underscore just how quickly crypto prices can move. You get like nothing, nothing, nothing. You see like these chops. And if you were to zoom in, you would see that these drops were like 30%, 40% also, right? Like you can't even see it. But all these little ridges here, it's like 20%, 30% drops in this little ridge. And then all of a sudden you get that first leg higher. And then you get that second leg higher and a massive blow off top. And literally within what is that? Within 3 or 4 months, Theta had basically gone up by whatever it is, 20x, 14x, 30x, right? This is the type of stuff that we're going to see for a lot of altcoins in the coming weeks. Not all of them, but many of them. And even if the gains aren't 20, 30x, 40x, whatever, 3x, 4x, 5x, these are still impressive gains, especially when you're, using a little bit of leverage in there. And so it's, it's easy to lose sight and get lost in like this valley of like despair here, where you're seeing these dips, and again, like if we zoom in, like you'll actually see these dips here were actually quite sizable, but you just can't notice it. See, like you don't notice it when you're zoomed out. You can see that there was a huge crash here, from 30 cents all the way down to, so it was like a 30% crash down to like 19 cents. It was probably even lower than that. But when you zoom out, you say, oh, wow, like, it's crazy. It's insane. And like literally most altcoins are here in this area. And this is something that some people have been saying on Twitter/X. And I do think it's true, guys. And, it's important to keep that perspective in mind. And especially when everyone is saying there's altcoin dilution and everything, which actually on that note, guys, I'll show you guys and I'll prove to you that this altcoin dilution is a myth. Going over to my Twitter/X here. Just take a look at this, guys, okay? This is a screenshot from CoinGecko from November 2021. You can see that there was around 11,000 altcoins. And this is in February 2025. There's 17.1 thousand altcoins. So the number of altcoins has only increased, let's say, by around 70% to 60%. And so the question is, do you think you're going to see more than 60% inflows in this crypto bull market compared to the previous one? When we consider all the changes around crypto regulations and stuff that's going to make it easier for investors to access altcoins, like spot altcoin ETFs, like being able to access DeFi, like exchanges being able to list more altcoins, these types of changes. When you consider these changes, guys, I think it's quite obvious that the inflows are going to be larger than 60 or 70%. Which means that all else being equal, that we should see similar returns in this cycle compared to the previous one. And I would argue that they're going to be even larger, which again is very hard to see when you're just focused on this choppy, grindy price action, kind of late 2020 style price action before the blow off top begins. So just keep those things in mind, guys. Don't forget to zoom, when in doubt, zoom out and also check what happened in the previous cycle, and see how quickly these cryptos moved. I do think that we're going to see the same thing here in the next couple of weeks. And I honestly think this is going to begin by the end of the month. So if you did make it this far, guys, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.